Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season 2 premiere of Sweet Home. Great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So obviously we're going to be getting a lot more of the military side of things. It was sprinkled in a little bit here and there throughout season 1. Our main group was us following everything that was going down at the apartment building. So now that we're kind of venturing out and seeing everything on a larger scale, that involves seeing more about the military and how they're acting, which we'll get to soon enough, as well as the government's research into understanding this whole situation. We meet what is essentially seems like to be the main doctor or scientist who's in charge of all this. He had a really interesting perspective. I get the feeling like he's going to be kind of like the Victor Frankenstein of this. He seems like he might be in that bag, maybe even more a little unnerved. I don't know. He has this interesting perspective where he's talking about in the grand scheme of the how long this planet's been around. And the fact of the matter is, you look at the human existence in totality, basically it's 3 seconds, in a relative speaking sense, it's like 3 seconds of a day. But he's talking about the impact we've had, and that basically the monsterization is the planet's way of fighting back against all the destruction that humanity, the planet's gotten tired of how humanity's kind of run it. So it's fighting back to kind of, this is the almost nature's equalizer in a sense. And that they are evolution, they're kind of the next step to kind of correct the mistake that is humanity. That's his perspective on it. We even find out the patient that he's experimenting on, it's right, they're not yielding any results, but it's one of the, I guess it's a government official being right, I know it's your friend, and he's the one but I kind of set this whole thing up. So I'm I wonder who's that friend. I wonder, is that going to be Song-Won? Because the recap made me go think about something. I'm they're not, at first I was thinking for a second, they're not implying that Song-Won is Woo Myung, that the thing that's in Sang-wook now. They're not suggesting that's Song-Won, is it? Well, could we really see him interact with Yi Kyung a little bit? He did last season, but he could have been hiding who he really was. Maybe lost a little bit of itself because it bounces from body to body. But I feel like it's got to be a different person. I'm wondering if the person we saw at the beginning that's kind of a little emaciated and their skin so pale and you can see they're the main test subject of this doctor's. I'm curious if that's supposed to be Song-Won. I don't know. But speaking of the thing inside of Sang-wook, it never even clicked in my head lastly. I knew immediately. I was seeing what that thing is and finally piecing it together based on the season. But I'm that thing's inside of Sang-wook. But what would also have been a clear picture too is I didn't even notice it in the season finale until I looked at it. Now I'm his face is healed. Meaning all the burns on his body are going. What I thought was interesting too is the creature was yeah, he's actually still alive. I'm actually the reason why he's still alive. Which now kind of gets into that territory. I'm curious of if you were to somehow remove it from Sang-wook, would he still be alive or would he die because this is the only thing keeping him alive? I'm curious how that works. But he was saying, yeah, Sang-wook is alive right now. He's which is interesting. If the body isn't dead, then... Because Sang-wook was, in the process of dying. He hadn't quite died yet. So I think there's a little bit of a difference of, it can possess dead bodies, sure. But I guess it also depends on how quickly it gets to the body after pseudo-death. Maybe Seong-yeong was possessed, before she completely died. But it might also just be a thing of, no, she was already dead. So... It seems like he can just possess dead bodies. They don't have to be alive. He's just kind of puppeteering a dead body. But it seems like Sang-wook is still alive inside. And then that comes up later on because he's starting to have Sang-wook's memories because Sang-wook is seeing Yuri everywhere. And that's kind of he's oh, get out of my head. No, this is my body. I'm in control. So it means on some level... maybe most of the bodies he's taken over have always been dead beforehand, so he's never had to deal with that until now. Maybe this is the first time he's possessing a person that was still alive, but maybe it's also just supposed to be a representation of Sang-wook is still inside fighting, and that some part of his mind is still there, that the fact is that's because that was the last thing that was on Sang-wook's mind, because him and Yuri were trying to forget the bad, and I think they focused on each other in the end, and so the last thing he sees and he's thinking about is hers. But either way, he decided, oh, you're just going to turn yourself over to he's talking to Hyun about like, oh, you were just going to turn yourself over to them. It's like, no, you don't know what it was like. I went through hell. I went through all of that. I know what it means to be experimented on that way, and I'm never going back. And so he came to stop Hyun, and it's like, right, we're going to find our own people. We're going to unite with all the other, and he even comes up with the name. He doesn't like this special infectee because also that's their name for them. For him, it's like, oh, we're neo-humans. So... But Hyun's not going to be too... I mean, obviously, it's like, right, you possess someone he knew, and it's just like he's trying to, like, take over the vehicle. But I think at the end of the day, because he's not in that raged moment, because he doesn't tap into his powers like he did in the season finale, because he kind of gave in to them. This time, he's not. He's just trying to fight him back. But this thing inside of Sungwook is willing to... Like, it's kind of accepted itself all the way, whereas Hyun hasn't. He never fully gives into it like this thing inside of Sungwook did. But they're like speeding across the highway because the military's after them now because they know like, hey, we need to get after this special infectee. It's one of the last ones. So it seems like they have other subjects later on, but they might not be considered special infectees. They might just be infectees they get to experiment on. The way the subtitles were explaining, it seems like Hyun is really, really special because maybe the others haven't hit the 15-day window yet, any other monsters they've captured, but Hyun has, and he's kind of gone beyond that. So it's like, right, they don't know who's in there because they don't know about this. Like, they don't realize this is their escaped subject. And I don't even know if they know it can bounce from body to body. Maybe, maybe not. But they're not going to put two and two together. Because they're like, who is this? Why'd you do it? He's like, and I love the line of, I'm a nobody. Which has layers to it. Because, yes, he literally has no body because he moves from body to body. But also, it's like, it's more the symbolism of, like, it doesn't matter who I am. It's what I represent. So, there's layers to that I'm nobody comment. But Yi Kyung heard about this, and she decided, I guess, because she knows it's Hyun, and I don't know, maybe she was hoping to be close to Hyun, and if she can follow Hyun all the way to this facility, she can find out more about what happened to Sungwon. We don't know what deal was struck between her and the military lady in the season finale. Just like, hey, they live, and you get... That was my understanding, but who knows what other caveats came with it, and what Yi Kyung was able to procure, like, deal-wise. So, but the whole chase kind of led to nowhere when they were able to get away. I was wondering whether Yi Kyung would be close enough. It's not clear she got close enough to look in the vehicle to see Sungwook or Hyun. It's unclear if she was close enough to see any of that. But she knows Hyun's in there, but she doesn't know about Sungwook, so... But yeah, he takes them to like a mall to get dressed up, and he talks about what this is all about. He's just like, he's so pissed at Hyun because he had also said the reason why he did what he did, going like shooting Yuri and Sungwook, it's like, I hated that look in your eyes because you still cared about these humans. That's what's like the moment, because Hyun was like, yeah, just let them go, they'll die on their own. Because Hyun still cared enough about the humans, and he was trying to get rid of that, and he wants Hyun to be more like him, not care about humans. And he's just like, why do you want to just give yourself up to them after everything that happened to you? And Hyun's like, are you scared? Is that why you ran? That's why you're running away, because you're scared. He tries to act all tough and stuff, but the trauma of what he went through being experimented on scared the crap out of him, and he doesn't want to go back. So he's trying to act like, oh, I'm the big bad, but it's like, are you even the big bad of this series? Like, you'd assume, like, last thing you'd like, oh, it seemed like he was, but it's like, no, seems like you're kind of just a fraidy cat in some regards. I mean, understand, but, like, I'm just, because he's a shitty person, so, like, I'm not trying to, like, it's a thing of, like, oh, you understand what kind of drives you to be the way you are, because you are acting out of fear. Even though you look down on humans being like this lesser thing, you being this neo-human, you're still being driven, your actions are still being driven by fear, so it is ironic. They end up running into this lady who's running from this monster that's covered in clothes. I'm like, what is this thing's deal? And it's like, right, I don't want to be on bad terms with you, Hyun, so look at this. I won't hurt anyone first unless they get in my way. Because it's like, that way, I won't hurt anyone because Hyun doesn't want to hurt humans or anything like that. He wants to help people. He wants to do what he can, even if it means sacrificing himself in the process. I guess that monster, I mean, the whole monstrification is based on desire. So what does that creature do? It surrounded itself with all these like high-end clothes, and then it like got flown down to the, like thrown to the bottom floor. And what's it do is like, oh, it picks up this bag, and that's why it was chasing after that lady, because she had all these like probably like high-end design clothes and bags and stuff. And it's like the desire of that creature is similar to hers. Of like, yeah, she's here in the mall wanting all of that herself. So the creature was kind of the same way. I mean, we've seen that these creatures don't necessarily hurt humans in some capacities. They're just driven by their desires, like the one that helped the little boy last season in the episode 9 and 10. That green slime creature is like it's driven by its need. Like, hey, I just want to protect you, make sure you're okay, I want to be friendly with you. Which we see that element brought about even more in this episode. Because let's shift over to the military, and then we'll circle back to Hyun and Sang-wook later on. But and this also ties into our survivors from the apartment building, because it's like, well, we'll be safe with the military, right? The glasses guy is saying that, but it's like, because yeah, if we're on our way here, I haven't seen a single monster, so the military's really done something about it. But Eun, it's like, yeah, but we haven't seen any people. And he's like, well, that's because they've been saved. And it's like, well, and then you have that look from Jisoo, because she doesn't completely buy the whole thing. And there was the whole conversation. Granted, the only people who heard it was Eon Hyuk and Yi Kyung from Woo Myung. Was the whole conversation of the golden hour, like operation of like going, like as I put it, going full scorched earth. But either way, they arrive and a monster situation pops up, because they got civilians like clearing the pathway of the debris and stuff, and then a monster pops up. Because at first you hear like a little child's voice. I was like, okay, it's a monster, and then but it doesn't hurt anyone. It's just running past everyone. Even later on, you see it pick up this little girl and hand it to her mom, because it's just making sure she's okay, because it's a mother itself, because it's most likely a mother who got transformed into a creature. I don't know if it's implying like her baby got transformed into a creature, or did she have the baby after becoming a monster. But it's still like that desire to protect your child was there. That mother instinct was her desire, and that's what consumed her. And I mean, we know the same thing happened with Miss M back in the apartment building, considering what she turned into and what she wanted to do, protecting the children, and her trauma associated with losing her child. But yeah, this thing, and just show you who the military is, that they are opening fire. They're so desperate to kill this thing, they're not even caring about the collateral damage. They're shooting people. One point they throw a grenade into a vehicle where the thing is, but there's humans in there too. They don't even kill it. And this thing's not even attacking them. It's running for its life. It's just trying, I think it's trying to draw them away. As we find out later on, it's, once again, it's a mother. So it's just trying to draw them away from its baby. And it's just witnessing. I mean, we saw like the cruelty of the military already. A guy had a nosebleed without hesitation, brought him behind the truck, like, no, we'll get you checked out, and shot him. And the wife was devastated, and his friend was like, yo, like, he actually had leukemia. He wasn't, and we see later on, like, the toupee had fallen off. It's like, yeah, he was legitimately sick. That's what I had brought up previously with Mr. On last season, because when he went to save Hyun, and that was episode maybe 8, I think, maybe. I don't remember what episode it was, but his nose was bleeding, right? And I was like, oh, like, but no one brought it up later on. It's like, no, because that was a byproduct of his illness. It wasn't him being infected. So, like, there are just people who are sick. And so his situation most definitely, because they were even like, oh, he's not a monster. And they're like, good, because they're thinking like, oh, we killed him beforehand, or either being like, yeah, better safe than sorry. There's two, it could be one or the other, or a amalgamation of the two. But just shows you how willing they are to do this. And it's sad too, considering you're fighting so hard to do all this and uphold this, but you will be on the other end of that barrel soon enough. Because no, it's not like you guys are immune to it. Eventually you'd get infected as well. And then you're like, all the, like, so it's this complicated conundrum of, it's the thing of, I understand you're trying to protect your country, you're trying to kill monsters, but at the same time, it's also this situation of, you have to recognize how effed up it is. I mean, it is at the end of the day, you don't have to agree with it morally, but it's still a thing of, you are soldiers. There is a chain of command. You follow orders through and through. It's a complicated rub of it but I'm like, that is the chain of command when it comes to the military. You have to adhere to it. You might not have to agree, but you do have your order. There's that little bit of that. I mean, and it's easy for me to say that as not a military person. I've never served in the military. I have family members who were in the military, so I'm not trying to justify like, oh, I don't know enough about the structure of like that line between following orders and kind of having your own conscience about what you're doing. I've not been in that situation, so I can't speak from that perspective. All my perspective is an outside perspective, and maybe I'm coming at it from a naive perspective, but I'm not trying to get too realistic with it, but I am just referencing and talking about this specific, story. But I feel like there is realism of just, yeah, you are a soldier, you have to follow orders. So you have your mandates and you have your orders and you have to follow them through. And it's just sad, like all the death and stuff. I mean, we even saw that soldier beat that guy to death, and the woman's like, "That's my son, that's my baby. Why are you doing that?" And the soldier's just looking at her because like he got so consumed with his rage because everyone's acting out of fear, and that fear is manifesting as anger. And even later on, that guard, that old woman's dead. Either he snapped and killed her, or she just died in the process. Maybe while they were like random fire going around, he ended up shooting her or someone else did. And he felt so guilty about it. Like, oh my God, like what kind of monster am I becoming? And killed himself. That led to Eon Yu picking up his gun. I was thinking the group was going to get separated. Granted, everyone ended up roughly sticking together. When they were kind of running away, and it's still that realization of like, do you recognize what's that? Because even dude in the glasses later on is like, wow, the military, I thought they were the good guys, but they weren't. Obviously, poor Hie-in, she was so focused on helping everyone else. I was like, oh, you didn't even pay attention to the fact this bomb like hopped out of your hands. He's supposed to be your baby. He's supposed to be precious to you, but he slipped out of your hands. I mean, to be fair, you kind of went a while not knowing where he was, where bomb was anyway. But now it's like, oh, it wasn't until you were on the truck and you were driving away that was like, oh my God. I am curious why that soldier did decide to stay back. I guess because he saw, hey, this group is concerned. Well, I guess he might have been the truck driver for the vehicle they were on. So for him, it's like, my duty is protecting all these people, and she's back. Eon Yu's back there, so he drove back. Even though like the soldier that's with him, it's like, you idiot, let's get out of here. Even has the gun pointed to him. I would like kill you and take over the vehicle myself. But got Eon Yu on, and they drove away. And when they got to safety, he starts beating the crap out of the guy. But Eon Yu pulls the gun out on him and says, like, I have somewhere I need to go. He's like, oh, you even fired it? I love, she turns it towards a window and shoots it. It's like, yeah, so I have somewhere I need to go. Now, I don't know if, like, hey, we're going back to the apartment because I need to check on my brother, find out whatever befell Eon Hyuk, or does she want to try and find Hyun? I'm curious to see what happens on that front. Obviously she's not in a good place in the aftermath of just everything that happened. Obviously, like, the last gut punch was just like what happened with her brother, then kind of getting separate from Yi Kyung, because it's like, right, she made this sacrifice probably also to protect you. Home Dude is the one that kind of set a lot of this in motion, and that was even the whole point too. It's like, oh, you're looking for your dog, like you're an idiot, like worried about the dog. He's like, she's like, but he in, it's like, if it wasn't for my dog, we wouldn't have gotten out of that apartment. So you should be a little thankful. And also, you were the first one to kind of run for yourself and not care about anyone else. He's like, yeah, and what's wrong with that? So your self-preservation is what kind of got us in this situation from last season to where we are now. So we'll see how that all plays out. But going back to that monster, a specific group known as like the Crow Platoon rolls in to deal with it, and even they're like, oh, like this scene seems familiar. They've, I guess, come across this before. It's like, yeah, these bodies, if these were monsters, they would have been ripped to pieces. They're full of bullet holes. Monsters wouldn't be using guns like that. So I don't know if they quite know, like, because they were like, okay, basically the commanding officer in that situation was calling out the military, saying like they didn't act wisely. They were so like impatient and just, they're not well trained enough, and they let their fear get the best of them. But yeah, it is that thing of like, the military wowed out in this particular situation, and a lot of that would just go like, it's the world being the way it is, like none of them would suffer ramification for things being that way. But like, so many people died needlessly in that situation. But yeah, they end up attacking the creature. I guess even the guy doesn't, it's weird. I don't know whether later on, like him letting the child go is because it is a child, because he's like, we don't hunt monsters unless they hurt humans, but that thing hadn't hurt anyone either. But to be fair, you arrived on the scene, you didn't know. But like he was going to put it down after it took all that damage, but the moment it heard its baby crying, it ended up like taking off. And the guy was like, that one particular soldier was like, "Hey, if you don't stop, your child's going to get hurt." And it's like stabbing that rod like deeper into the child, and it stops, and it's just taking on this damage. It gets burned, and the guy in charge is like, "Yo, stop it, that's enough." And he lets the creature go, and he scares it off by shooting it. But it's like, our job in the Crow Platoon isn't just to hunt down monsters needlessly. Our thing is to hurt monsters that harm humans. That dude is going. You're like, oh, that other dude, he's going to be a problem. He's either going to kill you later on, or wow, he's definitely going to wow out, because he's definitely not too keen on you being sympathetic. Which it's good to know there are sympathetic people to the situation, recognizing not all the monsters are built the same. Not all of them are driven to want to kill and stuff. But that is going to be an opinion and thought process that's in the minority. Luckily, he's a guy in charge, but either that dude under him is either going to kill him and take over for him, or he's going to die later on and get replaced by that guy, and he's going to be a whole monster in the metaphorical sense, not of literally turning into a monster, but being a human monster in the regards of, yeah, he's a human who does monstrous things. Or he just straight up like does a coup and ends up taking over. So we'll see how that turns out. But you can tell that other dude is like the one be like, "This is what we're supposed to do." And you're like, "Yeah, we're going to be dealing with you throughout the season." I get that feeling. So we have that. We also pick up again with Yi Kyung. She heard from some other soldiers when they were in the process of chasing after Hyun and Sung Wook that the other special infectees are going to be discarded soon, because that's why Hyun's that's why he's so special. Like, we got to get him at any cost. So she decides to go to the facility using like a high ranking enough officer to get her inside. And it's like, yeah, the military's too busy to kind of be aware of what's kind of going on, what little part she's playing. So she goes to one of the facilities, and we see this heartbreaking situation. It seems like they categorize them in different categories. The neo-humans, because this little girl was kind of categorized as a yellow, and they try to bring in her mom, and her mom tried to reach out to her despite her mom's fingers getting cut off. It's still like, no, that's my baby, I don't care what she's become, because they decide like, right, any connections to anyone pre-monsterization isn't enough to draw them in, because once again they're testing and prodding everything. Brought this mother in, which the mother volunteered to be a part of the test, but it's also like, right, I guess they were hoping that they would be able to rein some part of the monster in by using people from its previous life, but anything pre-monsterization is kind of gone once the monster's taken over, which isn't fully the case, considering Hyun is kind of bound by, his memories of the past and stuff. To be fair, no one he knows from the past has come up yet, because everyone he knows from the past, like in particular his family's dead, so there is no direct connection for him like that. He has his memories of the past, but he doesn't have anyone from the past to kind of worry about. I mean, that's why like everyone he's latched onto has been people he's met post monsterization. So, but yeah, we see them like use flamethrowers on that little girl, and I'm assuming she's dead. Cause we have that opening scene, because they changed the opening, and at the center of a lot of that is a little girl. So that's why I was wondering if it was going to be her, or maybe it's going to be a different neo-human. That kind of like, it just feels, maybe it's supposed to just be symbolic of, right, this new species that's being born, manifesting as like looking like being depicted by this little girl, symbolizing of like it's the birth of something new that's growing. Or maybe it is supposed to be a direct thing of, no, there is going to end up being a little girl that's like crucial and important in the middle of all of this, who is a neo-human. We'll see. But Yi Kyung is kind of seeing like the callousness and just the reckless abandon of the doing whatever they want to, just the savagery of like what this whole thing is, and knowing like Sungwon did go through the same thing. It's very heartbreaking. So she's here for answers, is what she's always wanted. So, but circling back to Hyun and Samwook, Hyun was going to turn himself over regardless. So it's like, right, we're going to the same place I was going to in the first place. But some was like, no. But the difference is you want to turn yourself in. It's like, we're not doing that. We're strolling in through the front door. That's where we're going to meet up with the other neo-humans. But in the process, he was driven crazy because of the memories of like Yuri, and ended up crashing, and that led to him getting pinned, and a whole bunch of soldiers ended up dead. And there was that one soldier that Hyun tries to go over to, and the guy was like, stay away from me, you monster. And it's like, why'd you even do this to us? Which is so ironic, considering not everyone in the military is like savage monsters and stuff like that. They're once again driven by fear. They don't know everything. They're just being fed what they've been told, and they're driven by fear. Like, these monsters are monsters, we have to kill them. And he's just like, please, like, I'm in so much pain, just go ahead and kill me, I don't want to feel this way. And he's begging for his mom. Hyun lowers his helmet and then snaps his neck, and Hyun cries because like he doesn't want to hurt anyone, because now this is his first time really killing someone. Because even the Seong Yeong thing, it's like, no, she was already dead, that was just Woo Myung like messing with him. But in this particular situation, it's a no. It's definitely, this is the first time he's actually actively killed someone. Well, no, because like Dusik as well, like, granted he was out of control at that time, but this is something he's definitely intentionally did. So, and we find out that the thing inside of Sang-wook can't go to a new body. Now I wonder why that is. He was like, well, this stupid body, I never liked this guy's look in the first place, never liked the look in his eyes. So I wonder, is at some level Sang-wook keeping him there? Because he can't transfer to another body. I wonder, is it what happened with Hyun, like during in his previous body, that encounter? Did it mess with his mutation or something? Did it mess with his powers? So now he's stuck in Sang-wook's body. He tries to move on, but he can't. I wonder, is it because he's so wounded, or what is it exactly that made it so that maybe because he hasn't been in the body long enough to allow him to have, because he doesn't have full control of the body yet, he can't like leave it yet because he hasn't been in it long enough. I don't know. But Hyun ends up saying, like, it's ironic. You look at like you're so much better than humans, and you look down upon them, but you are a parasite. You can't survive without humans. And he grabs Sang-wook and starts dragging him. It's like, hey, two subjects will be better than one. He's like, really? You think you do this, they'll accept you? They'll treat you like a hero because you're trying to do good? And it's like, you'll just always be a monster to them. But for Hyun, it's like the reason why he's doing this is because he never wants to ever forget that he is human. And so some soldiers show up and like light him up in particular. And as he's passing out, Sang-wook is like, all right, fine, be that way. Welcome to hell. So he's like, you will regret this, because he even admitted, I volunteered my situation and then I ultimately ended up regretting it. That, once again, that terrible treatment, being tortured and experimented on, broke him and made him and twisted him. And like, who knows who he would have been without all of that. But it made him into the villain that he is. So where all this takes us, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where this season goes. I have no idea what to even expect. I skimmed the trailer just for a thumbnail, but I wasn't like paying attention to the events of it for my watch list video. So I don't really know what to even fully expect from this season and where it's going to go. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't want to know, but I'm so excited to see where this season ends up taking us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.